Just hope that if I run into a Dragonite or something in the future, Tyranitar will be able to pull through. Hopefully he doesn't have something crazy. Like, I don't know, fucking Hydro Pump. Let's go to the next thing on my list, which is one of the namesakes of the stream. Macron continues to take L's. In fact, he is taking an even bigger L in the French elections than he did in the European elections, which I love to see it, because his brand of, like, centrist liberalism is what's gotten France into the, like, economic crisis and whatever that it's in the first place. People are not happy with it. Let's go. So, this is a tweet from a person that I follow who lives in France, but I have found also a news article corroborating it, because they screenshotted a news article. They say, according to projections, there could be Front Populaire, which is the left bloc, versus RN, which is the far right, runoffs in 536 out of 577 constituencies, which means Macron voters will get to decide the fate of the country by choosing between either social democracy or far-right populism. Let's hope that they choose social democracy, because the Macron voters, let's just say that, like, most people don't actually, they're not really, like, ideologically driven to be liberal, because liberalism, especially in Europe, doesn't offer much in the way of, like, compelling reason to support the ideology, if that makes sense. Like, nobody's passionately in favor of the status quo, I'll say that much, unless they are a billionaire, in which case it's like, that's just their interest, is to preserve the status quo and stuff. But, like, otherwise people are not very passionate about the current state of things being awesome, because it's not awesome. Oh no, I didn't mean to close that. Let's go to this news article. This is in French, but I will translate to English as well as I can. Even though there's a translate button, I want to flex my language muscles. Législative. D'après la projection des Européennes, les macronistes et LR menacés de disparition. William Sin, thank you very much for the follow. I can tell we had it for 4,311 days. Yeah. Yeah. It be like that. Liberals, you mean? Like liberalism in charge, the mainstream conservatives and stuff? So, legislatives, meaning the legislative elections. According to the projection of the Europeans, I guess this means the European elections, the Macronists, the Macron's, like, followers, and LR face, what was it, disparition. Like, they're gonna disappear. Macron and his party are in danger of disappearing. So here we have exclusif. Sur la base des résultats du 9 juin, 536 duels sur 577 pourraient opposer le parti nationaliste au Front Populaire. So exclusive. From the base of results of the 9th of June, that's the EU elections, 536 out of the 577, what is this? Duels, electoral duels, I guess, could put in opposition the Nationalist Party and the Popular Front. So basically saying exactly what that tweet was saying, that it's possible that in 536 out of these 577 elections carried out at the local level, the question is going to be, for the national legislature, do you want the Popular Front, which is the left bloc, or do you want the far right bloc? Because Macron's party is not going to be an option. They have runoff elections, which means only the top 2 vote getters move on to the second round of elections. And Macron's party only cracked the top 2 in 41 of the 577 constituencies. Les élections ne sont pas de même nature et les modes de scrutin sont différents. On ne peut donc transposer les résultats des Européens du 9 juin aux législatives des 30 juin et 7 juillet. Et, les députés remettant leur mandat en jeu. La photo à l'échelle des 577 circonscriptions n'en est pas moins intéressante. These elections are not of the same nature, and the modes of scrutiny are different. Like the election, the modes of the election are different. We can't transpose the results of the European elections from the 9th of June over the legislative elections of the 30th of June and the 7th of July. So there's like a little bit of a disanalogy going on where like the European elections, to my knowledge, don't get a runoff period. It's just like I don't know exactly the system that the European elections use, but it's you know, it's not the runoff system. I think it's a little bit more like first past the post or something. But either way, let's see, remettons means handing over. Okay, the deputies handing over their mandate in play. The deputies in play. Let's see, la photo. The scale of this is that 577 circumscriptions, which means constituencies, will be nonetheless interesting. I think that's a really sloppy translation. Let me just get the Google Translate. It's just the translation says basically the same thing I said. That like basically, you know, everybody's legislative seat is on the line here, and that like obviously this for all 577 seats, this is going to be something. Porte de son avance sur toutes les autres listes. Celle de Jordan Bardella est arrivée en tête dans 457 circonscriptions, soit 8 sur 10. Les autres se répartissant entre Manon Aubry, Valérie Haye, Raphaël Glucksmann, François Javier Bellamy et Marion Maréchal. D'où cette carte France monochrome. Okay. So they're giving us a breakdown of the candidates that are favored in each constituency, but I don't care about that as much as the party. That's a bit more interesting to me, is which party is favored to win. But I don't know the polling very well. And of course, obviously, as we all know, polling was made by the devil to give you anxiety. Yes, you specifically. So I don't, you know, polling is very iffy, very wishy-washy and stuff. But regardless, this poses a massive turning point for France, potentially speaking, right? It had been the case, like, you know, like with the 4,000 days of liberalism prevailing in the Netherlands, economies kind of stagnated, you know, things were getting privatized, you know, companies kind of had their way with things, and generally people's lives kind of stagnated and got worse, right? Things got gradually defunded, as is the case for like austerity politics, neoliberals, and stuff like that. And now people are turning to populism, as well they probably should, and like as is the natural reaction to that kind of institutional stagnation, right? And so they have been provided with two options. They could go with the far right, which is functionally not very different economically from the liberal parties, but they hate immigrants, and so that's going to capture some reactionary people. Or they could go with the populist left, which is very different from the Liberal Party and very different from the far right. They're prepared to offer both socially progressive norms and economically progressive policy packages, such as strengthening union rights, strengthening tenants' rights, strengthening social safety nets, increasing the amount of public funding, cutting back on privatization and republicizing a lot of public services and stuff, generally being much more critical and much more heavy-handed against big corporations, which is sure to make people's lives better. If you simply rewind, if you were just to play the clock in reverse, you'll notice a marked increase in the quality of public services as you go back in time and as things get less privatized, right? And I think, pardon me for being hopeful here, but I honestly think that when given the choice between a populist right-wing party and a populist left-wing party, most people will choose the populist left-wing party, especially normies, right? Because that's, you know, even if people are anti-immigrant, I think a lot of people will be able to see that the left party has a real shot of making their lives better, when even though, like, And, I might be skeptical of those dang immigrants, but, like, what are they really doing for me, right? What are these far-right guys doing for me, realistically? Or the RN party? Such is my analysis of the situation. I don't think you really need to break it down to that level of anecdote. I mean, I did, but I don't think that's really necessary, because this is like it's an economic and political crossroads where I think liberalism is starting to hobble along on its last legs. There's going to be like, all right, which way, Western man? The far right or social democracy, basically? Or, maybe like reformist socialism in there somewhere. And I just hope that people pick the latter option, the socialism and social democracy. Full rest stop. Yes, heal me up. Yeah, good things are possible. Dare I say it? I've said it several times, and I'm on my good things are possible kick. So that's what's up. During the second time people voted for Mark Rutte, most people on the left did that just to not get the PVV. And look how that turned out. Mark Rutte screwed up a lot, and the PVV got elected now, all because of what the polls predicted. Turns out those were off by more than 10 points. Yes, I think that actually speaks in some way to, like, basically everything that I've said, that the polls can be very misleading. And also, a lot of Macron voters are not hardcore Macron supporters. They just voted for him and potentially even his party to stave off the advance of the far right. Remember, the past two presidential elections in France have been Macron versus Marine Le Pen. So, like, a centrist liberal versus a far-right candidate. People didn't like Macron. And I remember reading at the time of the 2022 presidential in France that there was record low turnout. People didn't like either candidate. So, when they're provided with an option that they do like, they're likely to turn out more. A lot of the people that are Macron voters this time will probably defect to the left because they were doing that as a strategic vote. And there's a lot of people also who will vote for the left party that stayed home in 2022 and 2017, because they're again very apathetic and they don't like Macron because they think he's not good enough. Great movie, by the way, Lupin. Oh yeah, Lupin the Third. Lupin the Third is fucking great. Yeah. Now all that needs to happen is that in the Netherlands there needs to be some nice left bloc that comes up. Of course, it might take a few more iterations in the Netherlands because the far right parties are going to keep shooting themselves in the foot. But yeah, sucks for us that the Dutch journalists all got hit hard with the polls virus. Yeah, I mean that happens in America too. Yeah, the polls are a hell of a thing, and even when they're accurate, the polls are a lagging indicator, not necessarily a leading indicator. In this case, though, I think that works to our favor. If the polls are a lagging indicator, then a lot of the polls will have been taken before the left bloc properly united, and it's possible that the left would perform even stronger than the polls predicted. All they need is time, and GroenLinks PVDA will come up. Yes, I actually, as weird as it is for me to be this optimistic, I think it is only a matter of time before the social democratic and socialist left in Europe makes a resurgence, because nobody likes the liberal policy making right now. And, people especially don't really like the far right, except in Germany, because some very exceptional circumstances have been taking place over the past, 30 years there. But certainly in the Netherlands, I think that you guys might be due for a similar change as is currently happening, I believe, in France, that we've seen the rise of the far right, and now the left is going to potentially meet it there. So keep your eye on the French elections. If you're following politics, keep your eye on the French elections that are coming up on the 30th of June, pretty soon. Because that's gonna have some significant implications for how much life the far right and how much life liberalism have left in them before the left finally gets to reassert itself on the policymaking stage. And if the left does reassert itself, that's going to mean some really good things for people that are not earning that much money. It's going to mean, like I said, stronger public services, more public investment, less privatization, better quality of life, generally speaking, due to things like union protections, workers' rights, etc., etc. There's like a general package there. Yeah. Future me, if that's a segment, if the French elections thing is a segment, cut it there.